So welcome back to the Accounting 101 series of courses. Today we're going to talk about two bases of accounting that you might have heard about. That's the cash basis and the accrual basis. Hi, my name is Chris Passmore and I'm your social media CPA. So in the prior courses we've talked about common terms of accounting and common financial statements. And so we're going to take this a step further now and talk about two common and different bases of accounting or manners of recording entries in your general ledger. So the two bases of accounting that you will come across is the cash basis of accounting and the accrual basis of accounting. And you're probably wondering, what's the difference? Why do you have one maybe on your tax return and yet another basis for your internal financial statements that may be submitted to the bank? Well, let's start. The cash basis of accounting is most common in small and medium-sized businesses. And what the cash basis of accounting is supposed to represent is a transaction is only recorded in your general ledger when cash is received from customers or other sources, or cash is paid for expenses. So you would only record the event in your general ledger when currency changes hands. So think about it in the sense of you get an invoice from a vendor. You wouldn't record that transaction when you receive the invoice. You would only record the transaction or the expense when you physically write that check and mail it to the vendor, and that's the cash basis of accounting. And this is also known as the income tax basis of accounting. They're often the same with some small differences, but generally they're doing the same thing. You only recognize activity in your general ledger, in your books, when money changes hands. So how does that contrast to the accrual basis of accounting? So Firstly, oftentimes you use the accrual basis of accounting as your company gets bigger and as your reporting gets some more sophisticated. Potentially, you'll need to submit financial statements to a bank if you have a loan with them or maybe a line of credit. And oftentimes, they'll ask for accrual basis financial statements. They also can refer to this as GAAP basis financial statements. So the difference between the accrual basis of accounting and the cash basis of accounting is under the accrual method, a company will recognize a transaction when it happens, not necessarily when money changes hands. So go back to that example of when you receive an invoice from a vendor. Let's say they sold you a product. In the accrual basis of accounting, you would recognize that expense when that expense is incurred, when you took ownership of the item that you purchased. Maybe it's office supplies. And so you would have an expense on the books before you actually make payment to the vendor. Or to think about it in a different way, when you sell goods or services to a customer. Under the cash basis of accounting, you wouldn't recognize revenue until you're paid. In the accrual basis of accounting, you recognize revenue when you've earned that money. Maybe when you send that invoice out to your customer. Let's say you sold them one of your goods. At that time, you've earned that revenue and you would recognize that revenue. So when you look at two sets of books, cash basis versus accrual basis, where you'll commonly see the differences in accounts like accounts receivable and accounts payable. Those are items that you will see on the balance sheet of an accrual basis that you won't see on a cash basis because it represents those transactions that haven't been physically paid or received in cash yet. Well, I hope you have a better understanding now of those two common bases of accounting, which you'll see as a business owner most often. And just so you know, it's perfectly acceptable that you would have, let's say, your tax returns on a cash basis, but your financial statements for your internal purposes on an accrual basis. It's completely normal to have two separate bases going at the same time for different purposes. Well, I want to know what your questions are about these bases of accounting, whether you see cash basis or tax basis and you don't fully understand it, or how maybe you go from cash basis to accrual basis. So leave your questions in the comments below and I'd be happy to help. And also follow, like, and subscribe for more accounting courses that are coming down soon. And if you have any questions at all further, you can always reach me on my website. That's socialmediacpa.com.